That's Alabama. And look, Trevor, another heartbreaker for you last week. Comes down to one play. I was impressed with the quarterback for Texas A&M. I thought that Haynes King was pretty damn solid for stretches of that game. It came down to one play, and I know the ball got out late, and I know he didn't make the play when it mattered. Felder's looking at me like I'm crazy, so I'm excited to hear what he's got here. But he played better than I thought he would play in that environment and gave that team a chance to win the game. Alabama, without Bryce Young, you could spin this positively. Without Bryce Young, they find a way to grind out a win against a team that's historically caused them some problems. At this point, it's very clear they need Bryce Young back. Hopefully that happens very soon. Hopefully it happens before this game so we can see these teams at full strength play each other. But back to our overreaction theme on Mondays, here's the overreaction. Alabama's reign atop college football is officially over. We've seen enough. If they're going to struggle with this Texas A&M team, that reign is over. Trevor, you're shaking your head. What do you think?
Yeah, not buying it. Alabama is still the Roman army, as we call them. Look at this game, and let me pick out some positives for the Texas A&M bunch because there's really not many. They lost, all right, but it was a 2-point game. You're on the road at the number 1 team in the country. You play them close. I thought the defense played pretty well overall, forced turnovers, but let's flip it to Alabama. If they have their Heisman Trophy winner at quarterback, they don't turn the ball over, I believe, 4 times. That makes the game a lot closer. That being said, too, I mean, Jalen Milroe is a great player. He's going to be a good player. He's going to win them a lot of football games in the future, but he's young and he turned the ball over a lot. So for them to, and I'll say it, sneak out of there with a win is what great teams do in that type of situation.
Right.
Haynes King played better than we've seen him, but I don't think he played great. I'm actually shocked that you started him at the beginning of the year. You bench him for Max Johnson. Max Johnson gets hurt, and you go back to the guy that you benched instead of giving the young, exciting 5-star freshman a shot. That worries me about Connor Wigman, the freshman.
Yeah.
And I've said this numerous times now. Either he's not as good as we think he is, or he's not mature enough to be put in there. But credit to Haynes. He battled. I think he's a great kid. He just doesn't have what it takes to go on the road and win in an environment like that, even though it looked a lot closer than it was given the turnovers.
I mean, he's been a walking interception. And that's something like you go back to the Sam Houston game, and I know he threw 2, but he should have threw 5. These guys were surprised the football hit them in their hands.
Yeah. Yep.
And so the big thing for me, and that's not a knock on Haynes King. He's going to get better. He will continue to get better. And with coaching, and you know this, Trevor, as well as I do, like with coaching, you can get better. But the big key for me is like, man, like what did he throw? He was 55% passing in that football in the game against Alabama, and nothing vertical, nothing challenging. And I guess the thing I look at, if you're going to beat Alabama, you do have to challenge them vertically. You do have to challenge them vertically. You do also have to challenge them with your shoulders. And Trevor, you know this as well as anybody, right? You actually have done this with the idea of that little dip where it looks like it's going to be a quarterback run. And then you see those safeties come down, and now we got you. And he didn't do a lot of those things. And so for me, this was a game where, and shout out to my buddy Alex Kirshner from Split Zone Duo, he calls it playing with your food. Where if Alabama had decided, you know what, we're never going to throw the football the rest of the game, Milroe, Gibbs, we're just going to run the football. That's all we're doing. That's what we do now. We're essentially an option team. If they had decided to do that, they would have been able to grind this team into dust. And I will say, and I'll flip it to the other side because I want to get your thoughts on this. Both of you guys' thoughts on this. When Alabama decided, we're not playing around with you anymore. When they decided, Will Anderson, Dallas Turner, when they decided, we're coming to get you, those were scary moments for A&M for me, where they were like, we're going to bring 6. And guess what? We will not cover everybody. We can't cover everybody. But we're going to bring 6, and we're going to put you on your bottom. And it was just like, whoa. And that's the part of Alabama, to me, that's a little scary. And that's the part where it was clear to me that they made a decision, that they figured out how much they could weather and lived with that. But, I mean, Greg, you watched it. When Alabama decided to turn the heat up, you could feel it, right?
So, yes, 100%. And I'm not taking anything away from that in my criticisms here. And part of this is that I'm tasked with playing host on Overreaction Monday. So I'm going to push the limits a little bit. I don't think any of the three of us would look the camera in the eyes right now and say, they're dead. They're done. It's Alabama. It's Nick Saban. This is the program to beat until they go away for multiple years in a row, not just losing a title game and then we write them off. That's never going to happen. But what feels different to me about this version of Alabama, and I know they've had the injuries. I know obviously evaluating them without Bryce Young is almost a pointless task compared to when they have him. But this whole like, well, when they turn the switch thing, right? That whole concept was something we talked about after the Texas game too. And this is now 2 games in a 6-game sample size now, where it came down to the final series. And at that point, like, are we sure they're playing with their food? Are we sure there's not a little more vulnerability here than there has been every other year that they've been atop the sport, that is going to come back to bite them as soon as maybe this week when they have to play a team as good as Tennessee right now, right, Trevor?